Welcome back, Gearheads. Today's update, October 5th, 2015. I'm getting ready to start this update video for y'all, but I can't help but look, check out how good my square body Chevy sitting in the driveway, how good it looks. Now, I snapped a couple pictures, figured I'd throw them up on here to show y'all how it looks, but the pictures aren't doing it justice. The sun's going down more, the view's kind of changing. I'm gonna grab the camera, see if you can actually see it from here, from this angle. Yeah, that kind of does it justice. It does it better than what I got in my photos. Something about seeing something in real life, though, it always looks better. I haven't watched it in a long time, but it still looks good to me. Alright, enough of that. Let's go talk. We'll come back over the truck in a little bit. Back on track. Now, I've written a list here to try to make sure and help me go over all the things that have been happening since the last update. It's been a long time since the last update, and I'll tell you why. We've had LS Fest going on, and that took up a lot of it. That took up a lot. We had to prepare the month before LS Fest because I was participating in the engine swap challenge with my buddy Davey Lawrence and his truck. Beautiful truck, and now it's got a beautiful LS in it. Let me tell you what happened. Well, first of all, in preparation to get to LS Fest, we had to work on the truck itself and get it ready. We had to have the fuel system installed before we got there, and we had to have a plan. We had to go over things and make sure we knew what we were going to do when we got there. Because if you're not familiar with the engine swap challenge, what it is 2 teams go in. On this particular one, there's 2 people per team, and you take out the old small block Chevy, swap in the LS, whoever's on first wins, right? So we were practicing. It's like a game. You know, we prepared for it. Also, part of preparation was getting my truck ready to be able to tow that vehicle there and back. I knew that after a quick swap like that, probably wouldn't be dependable enough to drive it all the way, was it 3 hours back here? And then also, it wouldn't have exhaust on it. So to prepare my truck to tow his, we had to go through the rear brakes. They were missing parts and not together right. Had to install a harness, trailer harness. Not only the 4-prong, I went ahead and did the 7-prong too. Just got the pigtail off the back of an Expedition from the junkyard. Cut it off the vehicle. Spliced it into a T-connector that plugs into my vehicle. And now I've got the round 7-prong trailer plug. I'll show you pictures of that. And you see, I also got the 4-prong plug. We also installed the trailer brake controller. There's a picture. And then also had to run the power wires, of course, from the trailer brake controller to the harness. And air shocks. We installed air shocks. The truck towed very well. We made it up there. Drove kind of slow some of the way because we had a couple issues with the air shocks. But overall, the truck towed up there. It was great. Now on the engine swap challenge, I know you're wondering what happened and how that went. Alright, so we got to the event. We had to remove the front end, the front clip, doghouse, whatever you want to call it, off of the trucks. Both our teams did, to give us easy access and give the audience plenty to view. That's what the rules were. That's what they wanted. That's what we did. A lot of things we did there, we had to go by their rules. You know, some things were different than what we would normally do. But see, the swap challenge started. It kicked off. It was hustling and hustling and hustling. It looked like we put on a good show. Both teams together put on a good show. A lot of oohs and ahs, backs and forths. You couldn't tell what team was winning. Oh, they're ahead. Oh, no, they're ahead. Their motor's out first. Oh, theirs is in first. Things like that. I'm sure it made for an excellent show, and I wish I could have watched it from as an audience instead of the participant, because I couldn't see anything. I was buried my face in what I was doing and trying to knock it out, right? The next thing you know, it was 58 minutes in, and we got our motor fired up first, right? Excited, did a little celebratory whop 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 whop, pump up the crowd a little bit. Everything looked great. I knew not to celebrate too early though. And my buddy Rick Seitz from GM EFI walks over and high fives him. As soon as I saw his high five come up, I'm thinking, oh, it's too soon to celebrate. Clap. All right, whatever. I revved it again. Wham! And I told my partner Richard, kill it, kill it. He looks at me, he's like, I killed it. I killed it. I said, no, kill it. So I was telling him to turn it off. He was saying it was turned off, but the engine was still running. That's a bad thing, right? So I look at the guys there who are calling the event, and they're looking at me like, well, time's about to keep on going. The clock's going to keep going. So I reached over and pulled the wire out to kill it. And of course, that killed it, but they said that didn't count. So that was 58 minutes in, right? Engine running. But we had to fix that issue to where we turn on and off by key. And that took me a little bit to figure out because I wasn't familiar with their EFI harness. We use the Holley EFI harness is what they provided. And you know, usually what I'm using is the factory GM harness. So the lesson I learned that day, which I'll probably make a whole video off of this lesson because it was ridiculous. Simple mistake. If I would have known about it, we could have won that event. So the mistake I made was on the Holley EFI harness with the transmission harness, you've got a keyed power on coming from the engine harness, and you have a switched power coming from the transmission side of the harness. I put keyed and switched meant the same thing in my head. They were already pre-labeled, so I twisted them together and put them on a ignition power wire. Well, the problem with that is, since they were together, that transmission gives a voltage feedback that fed back through to the PCM wire, which made it stay on and not turn off. That took me about 15, 20 minutes to figure that out, or to figure out what was wrong. I kept trying to move wires around. I didn't know what was going on and what was wrong. And I did separate the wires and moved one, not the other. I was exhausted. Made a mistake and learned my lesson. See, so that was at 58 minutes when we cranked ours. It was like an hour and 15 minutes when the other team cranked theirs, and actually won because they could turn theirs off. And about an hour and 22 minutes, so about 5 to 7 minutes after theirs, we had ours going. So we lost. We lost because of that damn one wire, and I'm going to do a video on that wire, and you're all going to hear about it. So that's basically it. That was LS Fest. I mean, my whole brain, mine and Richard, my buddy Richard Wiley that was there with me, Davey Lawrence. We had a few guys. We had a group of guys there. Anyways, our whole event was basically that. I didn't get to see much else. Sunday, I finally went to the show and shine area, saw some cars, but our time was spent preparing and doing the engine swap challenge. And I'm sure the biggest question we're going to have right now is what happens to the motor and trans that was provided by Holley and Holley EFI and intake and all that good stuff. During the event, everybody keeps asking, so do you have to pull it out now since you didn't win? Because you know the winning team got to keep it all for free. That was about $15,000 in swap parts is what they said the value of it was. Full exhaust, stainless steel, long tubes, all of that, right? No, we did not pull it out. They gave Davey the option to buy it at a discounted rate, greatly discounted, and he bought it. So it's in his vehicle now, still in that speed swap status. When I get a chance, I'm going to head over there and start helping him clean up everything. Because, you know, when you do a swap that quick, it's not going to be the best. It's not going to be optimal. It's going to be running and driving, which we had to do after the swap. But it's not going to be its best. So we got to go through and clean things up and do it the way we'd like to have it for permanent. Hey, you know, it was okay that we lost because I was comforted afterwards by Chad Reynolds. One more thing about LS Fest. I know you other renters out there that carry your tools in your truck, staying at hotels maybe sometimes, you're worried about your stuff. Well, I got this funny picture from LS Fest. I had my toolbox with me, my little roll around toolbox for, you know, so we could use it in the swap challenge. And didn't want to leave it in the back of my truck, so brought it in the hotel room, slept with it at the foot of my bed. Check out the picture. Now, you know, it's been about 3 weeks or so. Yeah, about 3 weeks since LS Fest, so it's kind of hard for me to recall some of those things. I've been slamming go since then. Actually, before then, it's been busy, man. It's been real busy. That's why I've been taking so long to get an update video to you. What I think I'm going to start doing is just holding my camera out, my phone probably, shoot some updates of whatever I've got going on at the moment, and straight upload them. No little editing. make it look pretty, but it's it'll be faster that way, and that way I'll make sure I'm able to get an update to you. Because when I try to do a nice proper video for you and I have to edit it, have to make cut out the BS and make it interesting for you, it takes time. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to spend all day to make an update video. So expect some poor quality videos in the future, but at least there'll be updates and you'll know what's going on. Since LS Fest is over, things are finally, 3 weeks ago, still taking till these 3 weeks though, things are finally starting to mellow out, chill out. Refer to my list here. And I'm able to catch up on things. I'm hoping to catch up on some videos. I still owe y'all Hot Rod Power Tour 3. It's still on the editing block. Gotta finish it. I got a video right here behind you. I'm gonna show you in a minute. I'm building custom rear ends now. Lengthening 8.8 rear ends. Gonna put in the Camaro. Need to do a video on that. Let me get back onto my list. I'm getting off track. So now the Squirter, update on the Squirter is that I've stripped it down completely. Bare blocks. Scavenged what parts I could off of it. It had a drop cam bearing, 3 spun rod bearings. And I decided that I don't have time to even try to bring it back to life. Even though, you know, there's a lot of memories of that thing and a lot of fun and good times. But I've got too many projects going on around here. And I have to keep my inventory small. I expect to move in a few months probably. So I have to keep about a year. I have to always be ready to move, and I gotta have it gone. I mean, if I held on to it, I don't know what I would build it for. I mean, got a motor going in the Camaro. I just need to move on. So what I did is, we got a young man down the street interested in trying to bring it back to life. I gave him the Squirter. Hopefully he goes on to do awesome things with it and keeps us updated. Maybe I'll get some video of it once he's got it built. We'll see. I had a supercharged 3.8 I talked about in my last update video. That motor's gone. I finally posted it on Craigslist. Sold it. Sold it for enough money to buy the Circle D 3200 stall converter that I put in my truck. It's in there. About 2 weeks ago, me and my buddy Kevin opened up the trans and put in the stall. Tell you, it's a whole new ride. It hasn't been tuned yet and everything for that stall, but it's still fun. I can't wait to catch a burnout video now, because I can do burnout without touching the brake now. And it just keeps on going. I have a Transgo HD2 kit that I need to get installed on the trans still. Was going to do it at the same time I was doing the converter, which makes sense, right? But that didn't happen, so it's on the waiting list still. That dirty 4.8 that I showed you in the last video, I cleaned it, I painted it, and actually fabbed up exhaust on it. That exhaust is what you saw in my last video with the wiring harness. But took some used trash from the exhaust shop, just used exhaust pipe, put it all together, put a free muffler on there, and got some exhaust. That way when I'm running the engine on the stand now, it's not near as loud, doesn't tick off the neighbors so much, and I can let it run for a long period of time. Like I showed in that last video also with the harness video, I've got a Honda Radiator I'm going to put in front of it so I can let it run for a long period of time and truly test the head gaskets and whatever else. Actually, since I got silly and put that 4-inch chrome pipe on the muffler, it's a little loud, so I made a baffle for it. This is my little baffle. But I'm still experimenting with that, finding ways to make it quieter. But I'll slide that down in the 4-inch pipe, shuts it up quite a bit. Little baffle, show you all how it works. Stick it in like that. Oops. Slide it down. There you go. Baffle's in there. For any of y'all worried about the zip ties that you saw on the baffle, that's just temporary. I'm not letting it run long enough to get it hot enough to melt those. I'm just trying to see what type of wrap I want right here. And I have actual metal zip ties for this, but there's a view of the inside. Don't worry, I'm not going to melt any zip ties in the exhaust. So I have no plans for the 4.8 right now that's on the stand with the exhaust. It's basically my mock-up engine. I'm going to keep it because it helps to have an engine around to mock things up on. Whenever I want to finally clean up the harness, I'll be able to use that engine on there to reroute the harness. It's just great to have. Great to have an extra engine for whatever you need to mock up. Last weekend I finally picked up a in-the-bed mount toolbox for the truck. It doesn't go over the rails, it stays flush or a little bit below the bed line. And it had a dent in the front of it. It's a little bit older model. Picked up for 50 bucks though, you can't beat it. I got home, washed out the inside and knocked that dent out. Looks like it does the job. I'll show you more of that. Now for one of the biggest updates on this list that I'm sure many of you are waiting on is the status of the Camaro. Okay, so what the Camaro's waiting on. That 6.0 is waiting for the oil pan to go on, front cover, rear cover, rocker covers, all easy stuff, right? Why don't I just slap it on and crank it up? Well, the reason I can't is because I needed a oil drain back for the turbo, a bung welded into either the oil pan or the front cover. I wanted to do the front cover. It's easier to reach, to mess it up, easier to replace. The oil pan for an F-body is expensive. Also, I hadn't put much time into planning on where I was going to do it and how I was going to do it. Either way though, I needed to get the bung, aluminum -10 bung, and I needed to have it welded into wherever I'm going to put it. So that is finally happening. Once I get that done, I can crank it up on the stand, we can hear it run, I can show how the Holley EFI wires up, show you all that lovely wire that screwed me on the swap. But here's the bung, -10 AN fitting bung, just weld it into where you want it, right? So originally I thought I was going to put it over here. It's pretty obvious there though, it'll come out and hit the harmonic balancer. I am running an underdrive harmonic balancer pulley, but also want to be able to clear a regular pulley in case I ever had to run a regular pulley. So my buddy Kenny Cash showed me where he got away with, and I've seen many others on the internet, they'll put it over here. But what was important that Kenny showed me is that he put his at an angle. He sent me pictures of his angle, what angle he put it at, and that's about what the angle is. So I've got the hole drilled. I just drilled it with a step bit, Harbor Freight. Drilled it out until the piece fit well, and then went at an angle until I got it to where I wanted it. But for the most part, it stays in place where it needs to be. That's what the hole looks like on the back side. So now I need to have someone TIG that up, right? Which is what I was going to do. But I got real curious. Kenny also brought up some of this stuff. Alumi weld rods, Harbor Freight. The things have good reviews, and so I want to see what happens. I mean, I could be patient, drop that off, spend some money and have it welded right, but there shouldn't be pressure on that. And from what I've read, these things hold well, so I want to do it and see what happens. So tonight I plan on heating that up, try to do a little aluminum welding. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you know. Big shout out to Mike over at squeezeperformance.com, and he always takes care of me. He's the one who's got the good V-bands that I told you about that are interlocking, and I used them on the hot side for the Camaro. But a lot of turbo accessories, whatever you need. Not only does he have what you need for that subject, but he's got quality parts and at a good price. You gotta check it out. Also, what I like about his site is it's easy to find anything, man. When you go there, things are organized in a way that makes things easy to find. So Mike is where I was able to get, Squeeze Performance, Mike at Squeeze Performance, is where I was able to find the -10 bung to weld in, and also the drain fitting to go on the bottom of my turbo. Good website. If you're building a turbo build, check them out. I'll put the website in the description below. Now for a little walk around, I'm going to show you a few things I got going on. We'll start with that truck toolbox I was telling you about. See how it stays below the bed rails? Love this style. When I was on the power tour, I saw a lot of the guys out there in trucks had them. and knew I needed to get one. Problem was I didn't want to spend the what, $250 they cost to buy them new. So I patiently waited on Craigslist, found this one for 50 bucks. I need to remove that sticker off the center there and bolt it down, but it had a pretty bad, well, I shouldn't say pretty bad, it had a dent right there. You can see in the picture. But I knocked it out and it's working pretty good. Cleaned out the inside. Love having a box. When you go traveling in the truck, usually the whole cab fills up with your items. So this should make it a lot more comfortable. Something I forgot to mention is I got a block here. This is an iron LS1 block. 5.3 is my buddy's. He had it bored out to LS1 bore. And he's going to be using LS1 pistons, LS1 rods, 5.3 crank. He wants me to build it for him, so that's why it's sitting here, waiting on me to get a chance to start building it. I'm probably going to have to get one of these other 2 engines off the stand first. Now for what has been catching my attention, and I've been so excited about lately, is that I'm learning to build custom rear ends. This is a Ford Explorer 8.8 rear end. The 8.8s, especially the Explorer 8.8, are known for being strong. The 31 spline axles usually, very often have limited slip and come with great gear ratios. 373s is common. As a matter of fact, I picked up 2 of these rear ends and an average price is about $150 complete. Picked up 2 Explorer rear ends. They both had limited slip and 373 gears. Can't beat it. 8.8s came in everything. Explorers, Rangers, Mustangs. Ford used them in everything, so it makes them cheap, plentiful in the salvage yard, and so that's why we're using them. They're strong and they're cheap. Same reason we use LS's, strong and cheap. And this example over here is what I'm doing. This is one that I've already cut up. I've cut the tubes off of. Oh, big thank you to Philip Eaton, who gave me a heck of a deal on this beast right here and allowed me to cut those tubes real quick. Thank you, Philip. But I was able to cut the tubes off the 8.8 quickly, easily, smoothly, straight. And then what I have inside there is a truing bar. It's 1 1/4 inch bar, about 6 foot long. These pucks made to go where the bearings were to hold the bar centered. Also puck on the end where the bearing would go for the axle bearing to hold it centered. This keeps everything lined up and true so that you can weld the tubes on wherever you need. Like say if you were just going to lengthen it or shorten it, that's how you would do it. But what I did, or what I'm doing on this one, is my buddy Mike Huddick, he actually hooked me up and gave me an F-body rear end. It was broken, bad, whatever. But I was able to do, this is the most common way that people do 8.8 builds for F-body Camaros. They cut the axles off of the Camaro rear end right at the pumpkin, so it would be right here on the Camaro pumpkin. That's where they cut these off at. And on the 8.8 rear end, they're cutting them about 2 to 3 inches away from the pumpkin. Then put the F-body tubes inside the 8.8 tube. You make a sleeve that fills there, between that gap right there. Weld it all together. Once you have it in place, of course, you know, have the angle right on your springs, pinion. But that's basically, real quick nutshell, that's it. Then you have to have some custom 31 spline Moser axles, and you've got a strong rear end. Cheap, fast, and simple. I say cheap compared to buying an aftermarket axle. That's a real quick, rough overview of what's going on here with the rear ends. I don't want to get too detailed because there's a lot of information. I'll probably need to make my own video on just that subject. Enough on the 8.8 for now. This wraps up my video. See y'all next time. You stay motivated, be productive, and keep on wrenching.